So I'm going to try to give everybody a quick rundown of the counterbalance system here in the KLR 650. Should be the same from 87 to about the 2023, 2024. Don't know if they've really changed much of that, but something to note that I was not able to find videos on was if you have lots of vibration, massive amounts of vibration, and maybe you've done some work on the top end somewhere in the valve terrain and you've had to retime your cam timing, good odds are you put your motor at top dead center, or the little, what people will call the lazy T, with your viewer up here, and you won't see it because I don't have my flywheel on right now, but that TDC mark will go around twice. And it doesn't matter as far as cams go, because they're going to do their thing. And this is the cam chain right here. You can see I don't have to touch that at all. But I did before, when we had to redo the two intake valves. And so we put it to TDC, not being any the wiser that we were completely timing it 150, 180 degrees rather, for the counterbalance. So when we start the engine up, it's got plenty of power, it feels good, but it vibrates a lot. And as soon as you give it any little bit of juice there, it wants to shake you off the bike. It's almost dangerous to that extent. And I've had light bulbs blow out. I've had speedometer cables rattle out, turn signals rattle off, everything in that 4 or 5 miles that I thought that I had it right, but something else was wrong. Well, it turns out when I get into there, you'll see how the counterbalance system works. You see a couple things missing. The doohickey piece down here. Obviously, we have the inner, and then this is the inner case off, and then we have the outer case off as well to get this far in, and you have this whole counterbalance system here. And you'll make note of the fact that there are two silver links right up here at the top. If you look real closely at that shaft, you'll see that little dot. That's at the top, right almost at 12 o'clock right now. It's kind of hard to see. It'll make a lot of notes on it. And I just put that piece back on, that washer, and then that lock, or that circlip. But the two links up there on the top that are silver should be right between those two marks. If you take that off, they should all be lined up. 1, 2 marks, and then in the middle of them. And then if you go down here, you'll see a single silver link. And if you look close under what would usually be 2 washers, but right here I actually have it off. So I get the light just right. You'll see you have a single dot right there, up there on part of the shaft. That is actually a mark for top dead center. And you'll notice there's a mark at the top, also top dead center. And you probably are wondering, well, why does it matter? It matters because you're going to have your counterbalance out of sync with your compression and explosions and all the fun jazz and things that you're trying to counter. These don't turn the same number of times that the crank turns over. And there's some math you can use to figure it out. Eagle Mike has mentioned, I think it's 70 chain rotations, or 70 crank rotations, 9 chain rotations in order for you to get back to these things lining up. 1, 2, 1 here, and 2 more here. So I like to count with the chains, and you have to turn this whole thing over. You put your Woodruff key in the top, and you put your flywheel back on temporarily, and you use your tool to turn it back over, always going clockwise, until you see this single link somewhere here in the middle, and this one lined up. And if yours is like mine was, I had it backwards, or had it upside down 180 degrees, because we had timed everything to TDC on the intake, not the compression, which does matter. So it put which these actually, that I should point out, the cam timing and the counterbalance systems don't care about each other, so as far as they don't affect each other. And that, like, you know, you're not gonna bend a valve because you have your counterbalance system out of time. But what it will do is shake like crazy. So the best fix for this is if you get your case open and you check, and you did like I did, which is have things timed incorrectly, which was having it timed here, right? See how that little dot is there? That little dot should be lined up with a silver link. I had it timed with this one, and this one should be at the top, the true top dead center, the compression stroke, and that changes everything completely. So the best way to do it is you take off your tensioner, little rubber guide, chain guide that goes here, that covers this end of the chain. And then there's another guide that goes out here. Just take it off. There's no reason to keep it on when you do this. And then taking off, of course, very carefully, the gear here that has a washer behind it. So when you put that washer back in there, be careful not to drop it. You can drop it. I actually did, even though everybody warned me not to. There is a sump down here, that big deep hole. If you do drop it down there, it's not a big deal. Use a magnet, get it out. I just fished it out with a magnet, so that was really easy. But easiest thing to do is take off this tensioner, take off these guides. This actually needs to be down out of the way so you can get to the other bolt back here for the guide. That was one of my mistakes. So time it all perfectly so you can get that off. Once you get that off, take the circlip off of this one, pop it off, start at the top. Make sure this lines up, the two little dots, or sorry, the two links line up with the one dot. Come down here, keep tension on it. Make sure it keeps tension enough to line up perfectly with that little dot with the silver link in the middle. And then this one should be same thing. There's a little dot on the shaft that lines up with the dot on the balance, which lines up in the middle of those two links. So long as those keep perfectly together, and it is in fact lined up with the one that is in the bottom, go ahead and put your stuff back on in reverse order, or however you best can do it. I'm about to learn that myself. See how we put tension on it. Put that piece back in there, put your guides back in, and probably, yeah, I got to put this one in first. Put the tensioner back in first, then put your guides back in. I would go tensioner, guide, and then outside guide. And that should be it. And as long as you have that all together, when you put your inner case back on with your, hopefully your Eagle mic doohickey, you can go ahead and let it adjust automatically your tension. You close everything back up and your bike will not shake like crazy. And I hope this helps somebody else, because I've literally been working on this bike for 2 years. And each time we got into it, we found another issue that the previous owner had. And yeah, looking forward to riding it. I hope you guys can too.